Okay. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:05. Let's see. We'll have John. Let's seat you for Jesse. John, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, you're going to be seated for Jesse Burnham.
Okay.
Okay, we have Garth. Just as a reminder, we have some people that are joining us by telephone, so they cannot see the screen. So every time we speak or the speaker changes, we should give those folks a heads up. So just announce who you are every time you speak as best you can. Under communications, the only thing I wanted to let those of you, I assume all of you know, but maybe a few of you don't. I just wanted to let you know that at the last selectmen's meeting, the first selectman, Ralph Fletcher, asked the board to accept his resignation as of the 17th of this month, which the Board of Selectmen have done. So Ralph will be stepping down starting the 17th. What I do know is that there is work being done to find somebody to sit in that seat, and that process is underway right now. And that's the only information that I have at this point. That there is a system. We're trying to follow whatever that system is to replace Ralph as first selectman. The only comment I wanted to make is that I was very saddened to hear that he is, no longer able to fulfill that seat, as I thought he was an absolutely extraordinary first selectman with just a pretty good ear to what was going on, and a pretty good voice to facilitate the moving forward of Ashford. So I think our board will very much miss him. But we also understand that things move on, and we will have somebody else sitting there, and the town of Ashford will be just fine.
Chuck?
Bill, yes. In fact, the very next thing is public comments.
Bill Folletti. Good evening, everyone. If anybody did want to follow the statute and everything, I just wanted to cite it for the record. It's 9-222, which pretty much outlines the succession policy that we'll be following.
Thanks, Bill. Are there any other public comments at this point? Approve minutes of the regular meeting of Thursday, June 25th, 2020. I read them over. They looked fine to me. Does anybody else have anything that needs to be corrected? And if not, let's have a motion to approve them as they are. And I need a second as well.
Am I seated, Chuck?
Yes,
Judy.
Judy.
I motion to approve the minutes.
Oops.
Carl Falsgraf, second.
Any other comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
John Kopeck, I abstain.
Motion passes. Thank you. New business. Review a Board of Education request to utilize $35,000 of the non-lapsing fund for school building upgrades in preparation for a safer Ashford school opening. These include HVAC venting concerns, window screen replacements, and the possibility of renting or purchasing an outdoor tent. Dr. Longo, do you have any, anything that you'd like to state about that particular request?
Yeah, as you know, the COVID situation has really put us all in a tough spot financially, and we usually clean our vents about every 6 or 7 years, and it's been about 5 years since we've cleaned them. So we do the radiators and we do the where the vents come out at the wall, but we have a company that comes in every several years and gets way deep down inside the pipes and inside the whole venting system and cleans it. And it's rather expensive. It's like it's $13,000 or something like that to do the whole system. With the virus, I thought that it would make sense for us to start with a good, clean, fresh air in the building. And we've been replacing screens, and that's expensive. We have a lot of ripped and old screens, and it's kind of important to know that at some point we have that money so that we can cover those expenses without having to sacrifice, like cutting all our supply money or our equipment money or something to do these things. So I have two requests into you. One is for that $35,000, which is right now sitting in our unexpended fund, which would normally be used for capital expenditures, but we would like to use it to make our school a safer place for the kids when they come back in September. And then the second thing is we're asking for money once the audit's complete, and we're hoping to have up to $75,000 left over. We tried to be frugal and save money for this very reason, so we can get some staff back for 1 year to help us with the making smaller classes. One of the things the state's asked for is for us to cohort our students and keep the class sizes really small so that the kids aren't exposed to a lot of other kids. So we'd have to split up some of our classes at the middle school level, and we'd need some paraprofessional help and maybe a custodian help to help us with cleaning up the building and keeping everything fresh. So that's basically it. I mean, it's really just stuff that you couldn't anticipate till this happened.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Angie, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Angie. Are there any savings like sports teams that can't play because, sports is canceled? After school programs, are there any savings looked into?
Yeah, there will be some savings, although we are going to have sports. We won't have competition, but what the coaches will do is like what they're doing at a lot of schools is they're having, like for instance, let's take the soccer team. The soccer team would still meet after school. It's only 1 hour, 3 times a week. They would meet after school and they would do drills and learn things so that next season, when the seasons are back, the kids have advanced in their skill set. So, but we will have some savings as a result of school, but we have a lot of additional expenses, with additional paraprofessionals and additional custodian hours and additional cleaning supplies and additional, those plexiglass barriers, all sorts of things. So, we're going to use whatever money we have as the year goes on, to support getting our schools safer and more effective.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Carl Falsgraf. I'm just wondering if we have run all these requests by the Connecticut Fund and the FEMA money first before we do this.
No, we have, we are anticipating about $51,000 from the Connecticut CARES Act. And what we're going to do with that is hire a part-time custodian during the day and a paraprofessional. And we are paying for some of the, we have about $12,000 worth of plexiglass that we're using around the school for teachers, you know, like for instance, the speech teacher who can't wear a mask because she has to, the kids have to see her lips, things like that. So yes, we are anticipating that money, but it, you know, that it doesn't amount to much. $50,000, and when you start talking about staffing, really doesn't amount to many people, you know. So yeah, that's spent first, without a doubt.
Chuck, it's Bill Folletti.
Go ahead, Bill.
Jim, do you know what filters you're presently using in your HVAC system?
Yeah, we have the filters at the ends of the venting, and those filters we clean. But it's getting up inside the pipe, the vents that run through the ceilings and through the building. They have a special system. They go all the way through it. So it's not just the filters. It's that once every several years to get rid of the stuff that gets through, you know. For the most part, we're able to keep the filters in pretty good shape, but it's an old building and it's an old filter system. It's, I mean, it's, you know, it's from the 1950s. So, so it's, stuff gets through. And we found last time we had to clean it, the guy said there was quite a bit up in the vents.
I know with the state, they're recommending between the Department of Public Health and Department of Administrative Services using the MERV 13s, if at all possible, or if they're interchangeable with your existing filters.
Well, you know what, I'll write that down and we'll do an investigation. You know, I'm really not adept at knowing the filters.
Well, it's basically we're all in a new area of concern that I don't think any of us have a particular expertise in, but all we can do is try to share information as best as possible. Another thing that we're noticing, because it seems to be the trend to request that your fresh air intakes be open up 100% and run 24/7. And what we're finding with a lot of the state buildings is that the systems weren't designed to handle that, and it's actually causing a decrease in air quality instead of improving it. So I'm sure you've got a professional group advising you on it, but I'd be cautious to jump to any conclusions until you have some, you know, a report on what your air levels and indoor air quality ratios actually are.
Yeah, I agree with you. We haven't been keeping it open at 24 hours. We have Mike Melody comes in at 5:30 in the morning, and he sets everything and starts it. So it's running for a couple hours before school starts. So we thought that was probably good enough. We were afraid with some of those old fans and some of that old equipment that we run it too long, we'll be replacing motors and generators and things, you know. So we're a little worried about some of our stuff is pretty old.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. That's all, Chuck.
Okay. So Jim, you're engaging with Duct and Venting Cleaning of America?
Yes, they did it last time. They did a nice job.
Okay, so they're, you know, you had sent over information that they're the one. Now, have you already started that process with them?
No, because I can't do it if I don't have, if this money's not approved. I've talked to them and they can schedule us pretty quick. But I can't even schedule them. And if I mean, I don't have $15,000, you know. It's like, we're sort of in a tough spot here. But if I know the money's coming, if I know the money's there, I can, by the time they send us a bill, we can cover it, you know?
So the other thing that was part of this request I noticed is some stuff from, it looks like it's probably special ed stuff from Cynthia.
Yeah.
Table extension shields, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, those are the same things that we're using at Town Hall. We're actually using the same company and the same stuff. We actually felt that since you guys had your expertise that why should we reinvent the wheel? So we're getting the same stuff and the same company that you guys used. There are certain teachers that require they take off their mask when they deal with their kids because, as I was saying earlier, like a speech teacher, the kids have to see their lips and their tongue and things like that. So they'll be behind a shield. And some of the kids as well have to sit behind a shield and take their masks off to be able to speak to the speech teacher or the psychologist or people like that. So, yeah, we didn't buy them for every teacher in the building, but we bought them for specific subject areas, and it's particularly special ed.
So there's something here called a 30-inch corporate table with 9-inch extension shield assembly, blah, blah, blah.
It's not actually a table. That's what they call it. It's not the whole table. I don't know why they call it. It should be tabletop, I think, is what it's supposed to say.
All right.
I had the same question.
Okay.
This stuff is pretty well thought out by Troy and Cindy and the staff. I mean, they were pretty careful about this, I think.
Well, I guess I had a couple questions just to get a handle on some things. I guess one of the things I was sort of wondering about is you guys are planning on opening with all students, which is the first plan, and then there's a hybrid plan, and then there's a remote plan. And because I'm assuming because of the size of a building and it's a single building, we seem to be one of the few towns that's going to attempt to have a full opening. What has given you what's given you that indication that this is probably the best way to go? And I guess basically what I'm referring to are, probably the plan that you submitted and the surveys that you took of both from staff and from parent base. And I am also wondering, based on that survey, how many students are going to not come to the school that you know of at this point?
Okay, well, let me answer the question step by step. First of all, by the survey, it looks like about 25% to close to 30% of our students will not be coming back. They'll be they have chosen distance learning. The reason we're able to come in with a full return is because take a town like Mansfield, whose average class sizes is 20. If they come in with a hybrid plan and cut it in half, they have class sizes of 10. So that's what they're aiming for. So if we cut our classes in half, with a third not coming, we're down to 10 or 9. And if you cut that in half, we'd have class sizes of 4 or 5. So we don't have to go with the hybrid. What we have is basically, as the state calls it, a default hybrid, because our classes are going to average around 10 based on how many kids are staying home, and that we started out with originally class sizes of around 14 or 15 for the most part. So our full return to school is going to return with class sizes of 10 and under, and that's what all the state, most of the towns around us, Willington's the same as us. They're doing the same thing as we are because they're similarly have the same size classes. For the most part, it's the towns with the larger class sizes that are going with the hybrids because they can't fit 20 kids in their room and keep 6 feet apart, so they're cutting them in half.
Okay, so you're looking at probably close to 100 students that are not coming back.
Yeah.
120.
Yep.
How, and I know you can't read the tea leaves here. I understand that. I noticed that in the plan, there is a, they have a right to change their mind. They have to give you a little bit of notification if they do change their mind and they decide to send their student back to the school building. Do you have a read on that? Do you have an instinct as to how many people are going to sort of say after a month, maybe this is okay?
Right now, as of the beginning of the pandemic in February, as of February to now, there have been 23 cases in Ashford. And I believe 4 hospitalizations. So people are feeling that with that small, it's been less than one a week. Less than one a week. The percentage is pretty low. People are feeling pretty safe coming back to school, but a lot of people are afraid that as soon as the kids come back, they're going to start being with each other. That the numbers are going to shoot up. If the numbers shoot up, we anticipate more kids going out. If the numbers stay the same, we anticipate some kids coming back.
Okay.
That's the way it looks. I would say probably we would have to get to the end of September and we'll see the numbers change one way or another.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I think everybody at this meeting is fully cognizant that this is a moving target. This has got to be fluid.
Yeah. It's very flexible.
I'm just looking through a couple of the other notes that I had. So with the cohort model, again, the reason that this is applicable to the Board of Finance is I'm trying to get a feel for staffing. In the cohort model, how are things handled? Like, in reading the plan in a couple of different places, there's reference to keeping like bathrooms to minimal numbers, and lunchtime is again minimal numbers. So I guess my question to you is, if there's a single bathroom in a hallway and 10 classrooms, how is that bathroom being monitored? So in other words, what's the practical ramifications? It's nice to say in a piece of paper that we're going to keep them small or minimize the amount of exposure, and clean them. But how is that done in a practical way?
Well, practically speaking, in the primary wing of the building, like preschool and kindergarten, and those rooms have a bathroom, and
Okay.
so that bathroom's that'll protect them. The building has a set of bathrooms in pretty much every hallway, so it would probably be 4 or 5 classrooms each that would use a bathroom, which would be somewhere in the vicinity of 40 or 50 kids. So if I'm assuming they wouldn't all use the bathroom, but if even if they did, at the worst case, and that's why we're bringing the daytime custodian into the building from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock daily to go around during the day and wipe handles and disinfect doorknobs and spray toilet seats and things like that. We're going to have a constant refreshing of the bathrooms. There's only so much you can do. I just had a meeting with Eastern Highlands Health District yesterday, and during that meeting we discussed some things, and one of the things is that those surfaces are very unlikely to transmit the disease. They're finding that the surfaces don't seem to be a big transmitter, but we are going to make every effort to keep everything as clean and as fresh as possible. There's just, there are certain limits to our capacity and the human capacity for any building to be perfect, but I think we're going to make it pretty safe.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Jim. I'm just really looking to see. I just think there's going to be some things that are going to be really hard to do, like monitoring bathrooms as an example.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is to keep. I went to the car dealer the other day and had my car serviced, and I had to sit for 4 hours with my mask on. And I'm going to tell you, that's really hard. And I don't know if it's going to be rough with the kids. We're going to take a lot of mask breaks. I think the hardest thing we're going to deal with is the kids with their masks. That's going to be difficult.
Yeah, and is that unfortunately heading to, and again, this is not a financial question. This is just more of a curiosity. I'm assuming that that's going to be an ongoing disciplinarian problem. And
Yeah, I think what we ordered thousands of masks. We bought children's size masks for the kids, and we bought some adult size masks for the teachers. But I think what's going to have to happen really is the teachers are going to have to be a little flexible and be capable of
And the
having
jacket and my shorts.
letting the kids step out into the hallway, take their mask off for 5 minutes, put it back on, and come back into the classroom. We're just going to have to be really flexible and a little bit more laid back than we might ordinarily be. If a kid's really obnoxious about it, we're going to have to call their parents. But you know, the Ashford kids are pretty good, Chuck. We don't really have a lot of nastiness in the building.
hey, what do you think the financial impact is of the, let's just say it's 120 kids staying home. So you're going to have remote learning basically all week long. How does that integrate with the teachers that are in the classroom? So I guess what I'm getting at is there must be some sort of financial impact to either supplying computers. I don't know how many, what you're needing to do to make sure they have access to the internet, et cetera. How are you guys anticipating that financially?
Well, right now it does not look like it's going to be a problem, but if we have technology problems, it could end up getting expensive. Right now, here's what we're doing. We're setting up each classroom. Since we use Macintosh computers, they have a great camera and a great sound system. And we're going to be having the teacher's computer set up so that it videos and audios the teacher's presentation to his class. And we're thinking that at the beginning of every class, for about 15 or 20 minutes, the teacher will be online and available to all the students in his class that are home. So he might have 9 kids in the room and 6 kids at home on Zoom watching it that 20 minutes, and then they'll get off and they'll go do their work. So right now it looks like it's not going to be too bad. We have enough computers. We're going to close one of our computer labs and lend out computers to the kids who need them. We have enough laptops that we can lend them out. We did that last year. So far, we've only had about a half a dozen families that have told us they do not have internet. The state has offered to help them get internet through their cable company provider. So hopefully that'll all work out. If it doesn't, we'll have to buy some hotspots, which cost about $100 a piece, and we will lend those families the wireless hotspots. So
are you charged as to help these families find internet access? I mean, obviously the hotspot's a solution, but are you helping them to work with the state to be able to get access to the internet?
yes, anyone who doesn't have it, we are connecting them with the appropriate state people. If that doesn't work, we will step in and do it from our end. Since it's so few families, it shouldn't be a big financial burden.
Yeah. How are you dealing with specials? So in other words, you brought up the concept of a computer lab. I know there's some other school systems that are basically not doing any sort of special rooms. They're the art teacher or the library or the gym teacher, they're going from room to room versus the students going to those specials. Is our building?
Yeah, that's what we're doing as well. But we're also doing a secondary thing. Right now, the kids would say on one day they would have art, the next day they would have music, and then 2 days they would have phys ed, and one day they would have health. But what we've decided to do is instead of having art once a week for 30 weeks, we're saying, okay, you're going to have art every day for 5 weeks. And that way the art teacher is with a smaller number of kids. Instead of seeing the whole school every week, they're seeing just the 4 or 5 classes they see every day. And then when they're done, the music teacher will see them every day for a couple of weeks or whatever number of weeks, and then the PE teacher. So what we're trying to do is limit not only the number of teachers that the kids meet with and the number of kids that the teachers meet with, but we're trying to condense everything so that teachers are not seeing, 400 kids a week, like an art teacher might see 400 kids a week. Now they're going to see, 60 a week. So that they're seeing the same group repeatedly. And so the schedule is being modified and the teachers are going to the classrooms. So, and the music teacher's doing everything by Zoom. Like she's going to give her music lessons as we are. She'll watch the person playing the instrument on Zoom and instruct the kid from their home or from the classroom, but she won't be there.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're doing, everyone's sort of got ideas. Hey, listen.
Were there expenses involved with that, Jim? So in other words, as an example, did the art teacher need to get a special cart that person can then go and, stock and go from room to room or I guess I'm sort of looking for more of the financial impact that you guys have had to deal with because of this.
Yeah, well, we've had to do a few things. We've had to upgrade our Zoom subscription because obviously we're going to have 400 people on Zoom, and the free version and the cheap version wouldn't cover that many people. So we're up to like $40 a month for that. Or we bought extra art supplies so they could put a supply in, can be delivered. The custodians can deliver a cache of supplies to the classrooms she's seeing, and then when the next group starts, she'll have material for that group. We're doing everything we can to be economical and to be practical, but as you said, it's a moving target, and we're going to be flexible. And if things don't work, we'll try something different.
Are there additional staffing needs for the kids that are staying home, or you're anticipating being able to handle that with the existing staff?
If all is perfect, we'll get away with 1 or 2 substitute teachers. If we have technology problems, we might have to get a few more. But it looks like we're going to be okay. We are going to be testing the equipment by running it with all of our teachers in about 2 weeks. We're going to run everything at once, have them all on Zoom at once. We're going to try everything to make sure everything functions and works. Up till now, we haven't been able to do that because the teachers haven't been back. They'll be back on the 24th of August, so we can start experimenting and doing things with everybody where we could have 60 or 100 people online at once so we can see how it works. Our technology guy tells us it'll work. So.
Yeah.
It's a complex problem, that's for sure, but we are remaining flexible and we are willing to change if something doesn't work.
Who's the Eastern Highland Health District liaison that you deal with? Do you have?
Yeah, Robert Miller is the guy. He is the he's their head, whatever, I don't know what they call him, but he is our guy. And our liaison in the school is our school nurse, who, by the way, is also a trained contact tracer, and she's really quite skilled. So I'm going to be posting. Eastern Highlands Health District gave us a tremendous PowerPoint, which has all kinds of information. They just gave it to us yesterday. I'm going to post it with our plan online. So it'll be on our website as well. So you'll see a lot of stuff from the Eastern Highlands Health District that normally you wouldn't see. It's like got all the state regulations. It's got their recommendations in terms of all sorts of different things that are far beyond what we would do. But that'll be up within the week.
So Jim, and again, this is just more informational and isn't necessarily a financial question. It's more of a curiosity,
Sure.
Which may have a financial impact. But how are you? I'll give an example. Let's say some 4th grade class, suddenly 2 or 3 kids are found to have COVID or whatever, or have those. I guess my question is, how do you, I know you ultimately make the, you sign the paper, you make the decision, but it is my assumption that you have a group that you're relying on to help sort of manage that. So maybe maybe that fourth grade class and that teacher, they get quarantined for 2 weeks and everybody else is still okay to go. How is that decision? How are you being helped with that decision, I guess?
That decision is made through the contact tracing. And what happens is, as soon as a case is reported, we call the Eastern Highlands Health District. They assign it to a group of contact tracers who contact the families of anybody who was within 6 feet of that student. So what happens is if you were in the same room, or you ate lunch with the kid, or you sat next to him on the bus or something like that, if you were within 6 feet of that student, you'll be contacted and you will probably be asked to quarantine. But that will be dealt with through the doctors, and the doctors, you will need an actual test. What's happening now is there's something going around which is called COVID-like illness. And it has the coughing and the fevers, and everything's the same as COVID, but it's not COVID. So we've just had cases in Mansfield where people would swear they had COVID. They went for the test and it turned out they didn't. And in a week they were better. So we're leaving it up to the medical professionals. I'm not making that call. I want the doctors to do it. So they tell me what's best and who's been in touch with who and who's been in contact with whom, and we call them up.
Just to clarify one second, I'm agreeing with that. So when you say the doctors, are you meaning the individual's doctors, or is this an Eastern Highland Health? Who's
okay, what happens is the Eastern Highland Health District can contact, with permission from the person, by the way, because there are HIPAA laws.
Right.
They need permission from the person. They will contact the person's doctor and find out, has there been a test? Is it positive? Are they sure? Blah, blah, blah. And then they will communicate with the person's doctor, and then they will then do the contact tracing. We don't do that because obviously we're not in the medical profession, and
right.
we're more stuck by the HIPAA laws than they are. Yeah, it's a process, and I think it's the kind of process that's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable and a lot of people nervous. But it is, in fact, the only way it can be done.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I was just sort of interested in how you were going to try to deal with that. What's the governor's educational emergency relief fund?
That's basically the CARES Act. That's where we get the 50. That's basically. It's also called the ERSA or something like that, or ERSF, but that's the same. They just have different names for the same thing. It's the CARES Act.
Okay.
That's where we've heard two numbers. We heard $51,000 and $58,000. So in either case, $30,000 of it will go towards a custodian for the year. That's their salary plus their health benefits because it's only a part-time person, and about $25,000 will go towards a paraprofessional, so that, say for instance, we have 3 second-grade classes and we only have 2 second-grade teachers because somebody's out. We can have the para watch one class while the teacher is sort of overseeing it. So we have all these things we're doing, but you've been dealing with budgets a long time. 50 grand doesn't go a long way.
Yep. So that's an ongoing request, correct? In other words, the GEER or the CARES Act or the FEMA stuff, those are ongoing requests, right? Those are,
well, the CARES Act, we can draw all the money down at once. As long as what I have to do is submit a narrative. It's due by next week that explains what we're going to do with it. If they approve what we're going to do with it, which they will because it's COVID related, we can draw all the money right away. The FEMA money is more a piece by piece. It's not something we can do right off the bat.
so FEMA's ongoing, and that's something that's developed over time. I think that's something that Cheryl Baker submits, correct? So you guys,
yeah, right. We submit to Cheryl purchase orders and requisitions that we've spent already, and she submits it, and we get reimbursed, hopefully. From what I understand, it's been a pretty good system. They've been pretty good about it. I don't have a real close contact with that. I pretty much leave that to business manager and Cheryl.
So here's what I was thinking. It would seem to me that some of the things that you're requesting might fall under that purview. And that what we should be doing is submitting these through either FEMA or whatever other COVID monies might be available to us, and see what kind of response we get and wait for that. So I guess my own personal feeling, and again, I haven't spoken to the board yet on this, and so, that's why we have this board, so that we can find out. My personal feeling is that we should try to get this stuff that you've requested, at least, initially, the 35,000, submitted to FEMA, or whatever other grants we may be able to get, and see what kind of monies we can get back from them.
Yeah, maybe would it make sense? I know this is sort of a convoluted idea, but could you do a motion that says that, you instruct that the board, that Dr. Longo and the Board of Ed will submit their requests to the appropriate agencies for reimbursement. However, if they are unable to, that this money will be held in reserves to support it. Because I'm afraid, the Board of Ed's in an awkward position because we can't spend the money and then not get it. What happens if you decide it gets to be March or April and we haven't gotten any money back, and you look at me and say, Longo, we hate you. You're not getting your money. Anything could happen,
Yeah, I don't know the language, Jim, and I want to hear from my board, but that was along those lines was the suggestion that I was going to make, that I don't think I'm comfortable, and again, this is me personally speaking, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board right at the moment. I think we should be trying to submit as much of this stuff through FEMA, et cetera, to see what we can get. And then I would just want to reassure both you and particularly the Board of Education that we are not ignorant to the struggles that you guys are having to deal with. This is far and above beyond what anybody signed up for.
It really is.
So I guess what I would say for me personally is that we would not leave you hanging, but I would like to try to get this stuff submitted as much as possible to see if we can get some reimbursements first.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I just would like some support. I guess what I'm asking for is some supportive language. You could end up, you could resign and someone new could come in or something. Anything could happen. I have to protect the Board of Ed because they're personally liable if I spend money that we don't have.
Yep. Carl, do you have a thought?
Well, I kind of agree with you. I'd like us to try to get that money through FEMA first and assure the Board of Ed that we're not going to let them hang out to dry. And number two, if somebody came in different than us and said we're going to let you hang out to dry, they can call a town meeting and ask for the funds.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my other thought is the second $75,000. I have a real problem with, because it's much too general of an RFP for me to even consider that, and then we don't have to consider that for a while.
Yeah, we won't even know about that money till November. So I just was bringing it up just so you know. I'm just letting you know. I like to keep everybody in the loop so that no one's surprised.
So both Jim and Carl, that's our next agenda item, is sort of talking about that particular 75,000. It's sort of melded into this first one. So we'll address the 75,000 in the next, and that'll be relatively quickly. Angie, do you have?
Yeah. Do I unmute me or? Okay.
Oh, we can hear you.
This is Angie. It seemed what I was hearing, Dr. Longo, I'm not sure, was that the HVAC and all that the screens, et cetera. You would do probably in a couple of years anyway. It would be a cleaning of the vent system and everything that has to be done periodically. And you're just pushing it up so that you're sure that the school is safe. Am I reading it correctly?
Yeah, and it would appear in the budget probably in 2 years from now.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I would support it being used, giving the money now. Because it would come up anyway in 2 years, and why not do it now? So.
Thanks, Angie. John,
Yep.
John Kopeck, do you have any thoughts, questions?
I have a question. In the supporting documentation that we've got here, there's only one invoice for each one of these items. Did we go to multiple vendors? Was any of this stuff put out to bid, or did we just go with one vendor for each?
One of the problems is we did contact multiple vendors, but most of the vendors are backed up so long. We couldn't get the vents cleaned by, there were 3 other people. We couldn't get vents cleaned before November with other companies. This company happens to be a company that we've used before, so they would put us in. It's just that everyone's buying the same stuff all at once. Everyone's buying masks. Everyone's buying plexiglass shields. Everybody's getting their vents cleaned. Everybody's doing the same thing. And so these particular companies are getting booked solid.
John, do you have any follow-up?
No one's happy with the situation. It's no surprise. Not your fault. It's not our fault. It's not the company's fault. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I think we're dealing with some unique times, and I'll refer to my own business. It is absolutely unbelievably overwhelming right now. Demand. It is so I can see where a lot of these companies, if you can get them to even call you back, you're doing it. So anyway, I sympathize with anybody trying to get multiple bids, because right now nobody has to do it, so they're not.
And also, we're getting a lot of junk. Kelly Lyman, superintendent in Mansfield, I was at a meeting with her Monday, and she said they ordered 120 microphones, and 80 of them were defective. Companies are throwing junk together just to sell them to us, So it's really, we have to be so, it's just not, it's just insane out there.
Garth, do you have any questions or comments?
Okay.
I guess Garth is not available.
Oh, you know what? I was paying attention to my mute button on my wire that's on my headset and not the little screen, actually.
I love Zoom meetings.
Yeah, I know. It's like a comedy sketch, isn't it?
So Garth, what are your thoughts on this agenda item? Do you have any questions for the superintendent or comments?
Well, not really, but I see your point of view, Chuck, and I wonder if in the span of a short period of time, could we get some idea? I've never dealt with any federal agency, but could we get some idea whether approaching the FEMA angle would work out? And if we had some idea one way or another, then maybe it'd be easier. If it looked like, yeah, this might work, then.
Is Cheryl Baker on the line? Cheryl, are you on?
Cheryl's was unable to attend tonight. She had a personal.
I was going to say, because I'm afraid that FEMA goes by how big the town is and how many people and all that stuff. I don't know. She would know way better than I would know, because she's been dealing with them, how they are.
Yeah, I think based on anything that I know, I feel like the prudent thing to do is to try to submit as much of this through FEMA and any other grant COVID thing that we can try to deal with, and sort of see what happens. So again, my feeling is that no one, I think, on this board is interested in having you guys hang financially on this. So what I am a little, I'm a little unclear as to how to make a motion that says we're not going to do anything, but we'll do something. So,
Chuck?
yeah, Bill?
Yeah, could I just throw something out there?
Sure.
These are funds that are presently in a non-lapsing fund for the school anyway for upgrades.
Correct.
I'm wondering if you could word your motion in such a way, and my suggestion would be you have a little more detail of a scope of what work's going to be done, but that those funds be designated in an escrow type account in the event that the items mentioned, the HVAC and the window screen, are not covered by FEMA, that they would be covered by that 35,000. Because I find it a little difficult that the Board of Ed is going to be able to contract with a contractor that's going to come in if these funds aren't assured to them in one way or the other.
I'm assuming that they're already contracted.
Yeah, we can, that's a good idea.
Am I right on that? I mean, you don't have time to wait for us, quite honestly. You've probably already contracted to have this stuff done. I mean, there's
we have we have tentative arrangements, but I'm not signing any papers till I know I could do something.
Okay.
The thing is, an escrow, just all I'm asking you to do is to say that the Board of Ed would have permission to use the funds for something beyond capital investment, but rather COVID-related repairs if it's not available through another source. I think that Mr. Folletti has a good solution, because it's money that's there, and we don't want to waste it. So if we could get the money from somebody else, I'd rather get it from someone else. I don't want to waste our capital money either.
Yeah. So. All right. I don't know if we need to put it in a. Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
Well, if to get that money, this isn't a formal request for that money, correct?
This was a formal request. Yes.
Oh, okay.
They wrote in the packet that I gave you. The very first item was their formal request, and then the second page I gave you was our response to that. So this is their formal request, and so that's why we're considering it. So, and Bill, to your point, I think the non-lapsing fund is already in a special account for the school. So what I'm getting at is I'm wondering, can we just have these specific costs? I'm thinking, can we have these specific costs come out of the non-lapsing fund? So in other words, the things that they've requested, with the HVAC, the tent, which we need to, I was going to ask about the tent too.
Screens, and
the
also
shield.
the plexiglass shields. Yeah.
So maybe what we can do is have a motion to have specific invoices that were requested in this formal request covered by the non-lapsing fund.
And you can put
if FEMA doesn't cover it.
Yeah, that's it. You can put the caveat.
Oh, okay.
What do you think, Carl?
I think that would work.
Jim, Are you aware of any monies that the state is committing to districts beyond the CARES Act? I know there's talk about it.
There's a lot of talk, but we meet every single Monday, and every Monday we ask the same questions. We haven't gotten any answers yet. I
Okay.
think there's going to be more money, but it's mostly going, everything is going to New Haven and Bridgeport and Hartford and Waterbury and New London. They're not giving a whole lot to us.
Yeah.
But if they do, listen, I'm not going to spend our capital money if I don't have to. I'm going to exhaust every other available resource first. This is not us taking a shortcut.
Chuck,
Yes.
Ralph speaking.
Hey, Ralph.
The non-lapsing fund, that money is there. It's going to be there. And you could use this as it comes in. You could put this formal request to the side, make that money available to them should they need it. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to draft right now is some sort of motion to allow the Board of Education COVID costs to be covered by their non-lapsing fund in lieu of monies from any alternate source, meaning FEMA, any sort of grant.
And I kind of agree with that. I think what should have happened is they should have put this money together and as a request of that non-lapsing fund, not as a request to take it now.
Ralph, can you say that again, please?
Basically, this should have been an informational thing to the Board of Finance that they had this type of expenses. There may be money coming in from other sources. If that money is not to come in from other sources, they could use it from the non-lapsing fund.
Yeah, that's in essence. I think you and Bill are sort of on the same page. I agree that we would like to be able to cover this stuff through their non-lapsing fund after the exploration of alternate sources.
That's correct.
Well, that sounds like a motion.
Are we waiting for a motion?
I'm trying to draft one, and I have all these people staring at me, so I'm under pressure.
This whole COVID thing, no matter what we do, I get 100 people mad at me, no matter what decision we make.
I don't envy anybody in this.
Yeah, there's really no, perfect situation.
Jim, it's like a big snow day, day, whether you call it or not, you get people mad at you.
No, it really is. It's like no matter what we do, people, you put 100 adults in a room, they have 100 different solutions, Everybody's got a different idea.
Ralph, what do you think about this? Motion to allow the Board of Ed COVID-19 expenses to be covered by the non-lapsing fund in lieu of any grant funding. Your speaker's off.
It sounds correct. That's what I would do.
Okay. Carl, what do you think about that motion? Motion to allow the Board of Ed COVID-19 expenses to be covered by non-lapsing fund in lieu of any grant funding.
I'm not sure in lieu is right, but.
Oh, you can always say in absence of availability of any grant funding.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Say that again.
I would say in the absence of the availability of alternate grant funding.
I'm going to read this one more time, and then you all can correct me again. Motion to allow the Board of Ed COVID-19 expenses to be covered by non-lapsing fund in absence of any grant funding.
Of the
That's good.
availability.
Valerie, was that you?
Yeah, in the, he said absent the availability of alternate grant funding.
That's why you're our recording secretary and I'm not. Valerie, can you read that one more time, please?
Yeah, motion, motion is made that the Board of Education COVID-19 expenses will be covered by the non-lapsing fund in absence of the availability of alternate grant funding or something like that.
Good. All right, I like that. Anybody on the board have any concerns about that particular motion being worded that way?
I do. John Kopeck.
John, go ahead.
Just because it's referring to all COVID-19 expenses as opposed to the ones we're being presented here.
So how do you want it changed?
So do you want to say something about COVID-19 building expenses?
I would even just say the items requested at the August 13th meeting. That way it's targeted and it's limited to the things that we've discussed tonight.
So, do you want them actually listed?
I don't, it's in the minutes. I don't think we have to list it in the motion.
Carl, what do you think about John's thoughts on that?
I kind of agree with him.
So what we're saying, I just want to make sure we're clear, is that we're handcuffing them if something else comes up. And I just want to make sure John and Carl and everybody else. So what we're saying then is the things that you've brought specifically to us today are the only things that we're agreeing to at this point.
That is my intention, because it's our job as the Board of Finances, because this is not stuff that's supposed to be coming out of this fund. We have an obligation to review all the things that we're going to spend on this that don't fit the normal criteria.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah. Angie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm reading the request, the $35,000 that's the one we're talking about. Request, it says for a safer Ashford school opening. These include, so Dr. Longo and the Board of Ed people, would you anticipate that might be flexible? There might be other things under these include that aren't specifically, or
Well, for
you feel
instance,
comfortable
yeah,
I'm
for
sorry.
instance, if the tent, we're having trouble getting a tent. If we can't get a tent, that would free up a few $1,000s that we could then use to buy more masks or more, protective equipment, or maybe more shields or something. I mean, as long as it specifies that it's COVID-19 related, if something becomes unavailable and we have to get something else, it would make sense not to have to come back to you. I mean, you got to trust the Board of Ed's going to use their judgment too. It's like no one's going to play games with this.
All right.
It's not about playing games. This is our fiduciary job. And because this is outside of the realm of what these monies are usually spent for, it falls squarely on us. It's not about trust. It's just, that's the way it is in my mind.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
Well,
Angie, go ahead.
yeah, I disagree. I would approve the way it's said for all, and just have the Board of Ed and the authorities, Dr. Longo and his staff figure it out. I'm very impressed with the presentation today. I feel like there has been hours and hours of research and checking with people in the know, figuring out what to do. I'm very impressed with it. You have my full support, Dr. Longo, Board of Ed, and the people that are doing this. So I say go for it. Have the money available from the Board of Finance if they can't, however much they can't get grants for. That's my position.
Yep. So I just want to sort of come back around here. So right now what we're trying to do is we're trying to come up with a motion that we can then decide we want to vote on. It's interesting, John. There's a part of me that is very much in agreement with you. However, there's another part of me that feels that this is a very hard time to be able to predict exactly what you need in terms of infrastructure. And what I mean by that is, one of the lines of questioning I was going to go down was, what are things going to look like at the school day one? So in other words, day one, how does third grade go to the lunchroom? Blah, 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 that kind of stuff. But it's sort of irrelevant because to my mind, by day 2 or day 5, it's going to change. It's going to have to change. All the best laid plans are not going to play out the way you think they're going to. And so I think they're going to have some flexibility. I also have a feeling that there's going to need to be some flexibility within the building. Some teacher, whatever. I just, I can't even think of, the fan, or it's too hot, or it's whatever, something or other. We need to put a screen up, in the library that we didn't think about, or whatever. So I'm sort of wondering if we could have a little more faith as a board. I don't think we're giving the farm away here. These are monies, and I agree with you, John, that are meant for infrastructure at the school. But I think what they're asking for is honestly a little bit of flexibility to be able to respond to this pandemic.
The flexibility is that we're using these funds outside of what they're supposed to be used for. COVID-19 sucks, but this is our job. I can't give up this portion of our job just because we're dealing with this.
Chuck, Carl Falsgraf.
Carl, yeah.
I agree with John, and the point is that if they can't get a tent and they're going to spend it on something else, we can turn around on a dime and okay that and spend it. But John is right. We're taking this money away from something that it's for, and we have the responsibility to know what it's being spent on. Not just going into a slush fund.
Yep.
As a standard operating procedure, we have to approve these monies exactly for what they're being spent on when they're being used on the capital projects. So to me, it's no different now.
Yep. No, it's a fair point, John. I'm certainly not fighting with you. We're just trying to get there.
Chuck, this is Judy. I
Hi,
agree
Judy.
with Carl. I agree with Carl and John.
I'm sorry, Judy. I forgot. You're not as prominent on my screen, so I forgot you were there. I apologize for not asking you. I'm glad you spoke up. I was not ignoring you. I feel bad.
No, I don't feel bad. I'm taking it all in and weighing it out. And, they specifically had requested items. And I think that, we're showing the flexibility to, acknowledge that they need them. I wouldn't put them out in the cold if it doesn't come through. But I think that Carl and John are right that, we are responsible for how the money's spent.
So, all right. So what we're saying then is the motion to allow the Board of Ed COVID-19 expenses as expressed
in the agenda.
in the agenda.
Mhm. And I can list them too.
Yep.
Butch Simpson.
Hey, Butch.
Yeah, I don't know what's been going on, but I just called back in to get in because I haven't been able to talk. You didn't
Okay, well,
recognize
we can
me.
hear you. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, right now. What I'm thinking, I think it's a great idea to give them the $35,000, and I would thank the Board of Education for making that offer to pick up that expense. Okay.
So
I'm in
Butch,
favor of the motion. Okay.
yep. So Butch, the motion's going to be to allow the Board of Ed COVID-19 expenses as expressed in their, what'd we say there, Valerie?
As noted in the 8/13/20 agenda, and I can actually list them right from the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chuck, I've been listening from the whole beginning. Okay.
Okay.
So I know what's going on, and I don't have a vote, but I'd be in favor of the vote. Okay.
Okay. So John, are you more comfortable with where we're heading with it now?
Yeah, as long as it lists the items, we're fine.
Okay. So Valerie's going to list the items.
Chuck,
Yes.
Bill Folletti, just friendly comment. I think the term HVAC venting is too general, and I would think you ought to include the word repairs. I've never known a contractor or any building we've looked at closely where we don't go into the HVAC system and get a couple of surprises. I think venting is too general a term, and I think you got to modify that. And then my suggestion is listed as it's listed, other than what I just said, the way it's in the request from the Board of Ed.
Yep. So this would include the HVAC repairs, window screen replacements, and the renting of an outdoor tent.
Yeah, but there was also, I put in there the plexiglass screens.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's the fourth thing. You see that? I gave you.
I don't see that in the agenda, but.
No, I didn't list all of them, Bill. I was really just trying to give some examples, but in their packet that they sent, there were some plexiglass screens.
That's correct.
Well, I think they should all be, my suggestion would be they all be included.
Yep.
Yeah, and the tabletops, are they the same thing as the plexiglass screens?
Yeah,
Or
they
two
are.
different items?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's, I just use a general term, screens, but it's,
Just want to make sure we get them all in there.
Yep.
yeah, all the plexiglass. I mean, they're plexiglass barriers, I guess you could call them, and that would cover everything.
All right. Well, this is starting to sound like a very cumbersome motion, but let's see if we can make it happen. So I need somebody to make the motion.
I'll so move it, but I wouldn't try to repeat it.
Okay. All right. So Carl's made the motion. Do we have a second?
Judy will second.
Thank you, Judy. And so Carl made the motion. Judy seconded the motion to allow the Board of Ed.
The Board of Ed COVID-19 expenses as noted in their formal request on the agenda, I mean, you know, for 8/13/20 to be covered by the non-lapsing fund in absence of available alternate grant funding.
Okay, great. And Valerie, what we're going to add to that beyond what was in the agenda is the plexiglass screens.
Yeah, but I'm going to go to the actual request, their formal request.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
It's in there.
Yep. Yes, it is. Yep. So, all right. Any other discussion on this motion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
The second new business is review of the Board of Education's request to utilize an anticipated $75,000 of unexpended funds from the 1920 budget for additional staff to meet small cohort recommendations by the superintendent. We've already discussed that a little bit. My feeling on that is that we just don't know anything until we actually have that audit. So I don't feel comfortable at this point saying that we are comfortable going in that direction.
Yeah, well, I'll come back to you in November.
That would be my preference.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just trying to get an insurance policy, so if I hired people, you know, I felt like I could.
Well, I personally appreciate the heads up. I mean, I understand the position that you guys are in, so I like the heads up. But I don't think I feel comfortable authorizing dollars that we don't know for sure yet.
You could always cover it, Chuck.
Oh yeah. Anybody else have any comments on this second request? Am I out of place? Judy, what do you think?
I thank you for your comments. I think you're right on par.
Carl?
I agree, and plus we're going to have a much better picture of what's going on in November, when it's November, than we do right now.
I agree.
Yep.
Let's see Angie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm supportive.
Okay. John?
I
Okay.
agree. Yep, I agree. Definitely need to see the audited numbers to be sure. But also that money doesn't belong to the Board of Education. So I also want to see what the town's picture is at that point. The town may be in a position to need that money and not have it available to go into that fund.
Yep, I agree. Butch?
Yeah, it's a little too early to count your chickens before they're hatched, okay? Let's let the chickens hatch and then we can know what we're going to be doing, okay?
Well, that's a great analogy from a good farmer. All right, good. Anybody else? Garth, do you want to weigh in on this? All right, so I guess Garth isn't available. So Jim, I think we're gonna and John, I think we're gonna wait until we have an audit to start dealing with those resources. You know, I'd love to give you a different news on that particular front, but I just don't think we can, in good conscience, do that at this point. I just want you all to understand that we are, everybody here that's at this meeting understands the angst that you're all having to go through.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I mean, now at least you know that it's possible it could come up, and you know, we'll see what happens.
All right, very good. Thank
And
you.
this is Garth. I feel the same.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks, Garth.
Okay, so I'm out of this meeting now, right? I mean, that's
Yes.
everything that has anything to do with me, so I'm done.
Yes. All right, thanks, Jim.
Thank you, bye now.
All right. All right, next agenda item is the selectmen utilize Executive Order 7S, from the governor's office um, uh, to institute a request from the fund balance in the amount of $125,000 to satisfy the 2020 STEEP grant application requirement. In this grant, this funding would be utilized to repair the Pompey Hollow sidewalks and ramps, which are obviously in need of repair. I was going to ask Ralph if he wanted to speak on this particular topic, to just give us a brief summary of their thinking.
Yes, well, STEEP hasn't been around for, I think, 2 or 3 years now, correct, Chris? And the process is that we're not asking for any money now. We may not get the grant. We just want to apply for the grant. And I think it's a well-served purpose. There have been some shifting in the sidewalks over there, and there has been some cracking also. There have been a couple of slips and falls in the last couple of years that have been attributed to that, and I think this is a good project. I believe this was put in 2 years ago, was it, Chris? 4 years ago, this same project. So STEEP came up this year, and we thought we'd apply for it.
Okay, so just so everybody understands, what we're contemplating here is for them to apply for this grant, we have to have the funding in place. And then what happens is we utilize that funding and then it's reimbursed.
Right.
So if we don't authorize 125,000, they can't apply for the grant. It doesn't mean we have to use it. If we don't get the grant, we don't have to spend the money. So all we're doing is basically, if we are awarded the grant, we have to front the money and then it's reimbursed. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Where is the money coming out of, Chuck?
The unassigned fund balance. So we're just gonna take 125 and set it aside for this STEEP grant. And if we get it, then we utilize it and then we get reimbursed. And if we don't get it, it goes right back into the unassigned fund balance.
Okay, I got a quick question on this, okay?
Sure.
What do we do with the liability if somebody breaks a leg or breaks their back or falls down? I'm a person that has hard job walking around, okay? And I sure as heck would hate to go over there and take a digger, okay? I figure if that needs to be done, it has to be done one way or another.
We have ground a few of the edges off over the past few years to mitigate some of those issues, but it needs work.
Yeah. Well, what my suggestion is, why not borrow the money when we can borrow money cheaper than we can use it, okay? What are we going to play, 1%, 2%, 3% maybe?
Yeah, so Butch, I think what we're, again, just to make sure that I'm clear that you're clear, what we're trying to do is get this, granted to us. So we have to set this funding aside so that they can apply for this grant properly. If we don't pass this, they might as well take the paperwork, rip it up, and throw it in the trash bag. So that's we need to just say yes. We have 125,000 free to cover this project that would then be reimbursed. If we don't get the grant, we aren't going to do the project, and we will continue to repair as best we can until hopefully we get a grant sometime.
Yeah.
No, I hope we're not going to hurt somebody.
I agree.
Yeah.
Judy?
I was gonna say, yeah, so it's more of an insurance liability at this point, and if we have the opportunity to get the money, I'm for that.
Yep. Is John still here? Yeah, John's still here. John, what do you think?
I'm fine with it as long as we're comfortable setting aside the $125,000 to commit to this. Given I don't know what the financial picture is for the town with all that's going on with all this. Do we have the money to set aside for this that we're comfortable with?
Sure.
Yes, I think we are. We're in a very healthy, we've worked really hard, through the selectman's office and everything else. We've done a really good job keeping the town as healthy as we possibly can from a fiscal standpoint. So I believe that this is a relatively easy thing for us to cover. I don't remember exactly what's in the unassigned fund balance, but I believe it's about 10 point something %. So it's, 1 million something.
I think you're correct, Chuck. And the other thing is, if we don't get the grant money, we don't use the money, right?
Correct. If we don't get the grant, we don't use it. So it's really just, front money until the grant would come through.
Correct.
John, are you clear on that? You understand, right?
Yeah, I understand. I just,
Yep. No, I don't mind the comment. I just wanted to make sure you were clear.
Yeah.
Chuck,
I'm clear.
This is Bill Folletti. Can I make a comment?
Please.
Butch, just if we were to say we wanted to go ahead and do that work right now, we wouldn't be able to do it till next year anyway. I think it would be foolish on our part not to try to take advantage of the steep grant while we're being told it's there. Personally, I'll be very surprised if they don't end up suspending that for the following year anyway, but I think it's a good idea. I think I made that motion to the Board of Selectmen because it is a life and safety issue. I think it's our responsibility to try to address that. But even if we were to say, let's fix that now out of our own pocket, we couldn't do it till next year anyway, practically. So I encourage the Board of Finance to go ahead and authorize this, and I really hope the steep grant comes through, but I wouldn't bet the ranch on it.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Okay, I got another question here.
Go ahead, Butch.
Simpson. Okay, how close are we to doing the major roof repair at the school?
We have formed the building committee. We don't have a town meeting yet to accept that committee.
Well, what I'm saying is, if we get our funds that we don't meet the requirements of the banks when they look at us, we're going to pay a way higher rate of interest on that project, okay?
Well,
And what I'm trying to say is we got to keep the money above whatever the threshold that the bonding companies want, okay? If we drop below that, we're going to pay a lot more interest in the money that we have to borrow to do that.
I think we're well off, Butch. I don't think that's an issue.
It's a good
Well, that's what I want to make
Butch.
sure there's no issue, okay?
Yep.
Because the other thing I have is, if we know that the thing is in A1 shape for people to walk on it, and who walks on it over there? Mostly elderly people that have some kind of thing. If we hurt them by not fixing it, how much are we going to be a liability in a lawsuit?
That's why we're asking to fix it.
Yeah, but that, if somebody gets hurt, that ain't going to have nothing to do with what the judgment will be against us.
We have made temporary repairs over there. We've ground off where they've shifted and they don't meet. But we want to fix it correctly.
Yeah, we're not trying to ignore the problem, Butch. I think the repairs have been ongoing, but we're just basically saying, look, let's try to take advantage of this thing and see if we can get some funding to fix it for real.
That's right. It's not our money.
Well, I ain't against that at all. All I am is against is not if someone else gets hurt. What we
Yeah.
have to pay in insurance things will be way more than $125,000.
That's why we're here.
Yep, I agree, Butch. So in terms of a motion, this is for Christine. I think a motion would be a motion to appropriate $125,000 from the unassigned fund balance to satisfy the 2020 steep grant application for repairs to the Pompey Hollow sidewalk and ramps. Would that work?
That's correct.
Yeah, you can throw paving in there also.
Who is speaking with, that says Powalty? I don't see any Chris on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry, Valerie. In the background is Christine Abakoff. She's with Ralph Fletcher in his office. That's my fault.
Oh, I thought that was his wife.
Wait, we'll have a lot of jokes about that later on. So Chris Abakoff is the administrative assistant to the in the selectman's office.
So Chuck, as with the school, should we mention that if it doesn't go through, we don't spend the money?
It doesn't happen.
It just doesn't happen. We won't spend it.
Okay.
To repair the Pompey Hollow sidewalks, ramps, and paving. Okay. So the motion would be a motion to appropriate $125,000 from the unassigned fund balance to satisfy the 2020 steep grant application for repairs to the Pompey Hollow sidewalks and ramps and paving.
Right.
Carl Falsgraf, so
This is
moved.
Angie.
Okay. So Carl, you made the motion, and Angie, you're seconding.
Sure.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody. Next agenda item. Town annual report update. Jesse just wanted to, obviously with, he deals with electrical line repairs, so he's obviously a little busy and was unable to attend today. They are still working on it. He's doing some fine tuning to the to a couple details on the annual report. So it is still in progress. So that's that item. Agenda items for the next meeting. I will invent them when we get there.
Okay. One
Chuck?
thing, Chuck, Butch Simpson.
Yeah, hold on, Angie. Yep, Butch.
Yeah, I'd like, tonight I had difficulties. I was able to hear everything going on, but wasn't able to participate. I had, after about an hour and a half, I called in, I hung up the phone and called in. What I'd like you to do is take attendance before we start a meeting, or the first thing you do, so that everybody we know is hooked up and able to talk, okay?
Okay, so basically,
I wasn't able to talk tonight till I set myself up. I recalled and went through that again, and then for some reason it didn't put me on there, I guess.
Okay, we'll make sure that you're taken care of specifically, Butch.
Okay.
All right.
That's all I'm asking.
Remarks for the good of the board? Carl?
Move to
I was going
adjourn.
to say something, but I can't remember.
Well,
Second.
Butch Simpson again, Chuck.
Yep.
I think everybody handled themselves very well on both sides, three sides, whatever. In the discussion that went on tonight, it was nice to listen to people trying to solve the problem. Okay.
Yep. Very, very good. I think the only remarks I would make, again, I would like to reiterate my personal gratitude for all of Ralph Fletcher's work with me over the years, both currently and in the past. And I am going to miss him in his role terribly. I am very fond of everything that he's done for our community, and I'm gonna miss him in that seat a lot.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that.
So Carl made a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Judy seconded. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
Night.
Good
Thank
night,
you,
folks.
Chuck.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.